Hi guys, today's video is all about beginning in resin, where to start, what to get, and a little bit of instruction on how to get going on it. You're going to see I have everything kind of laid out for our very first pour. I am going to pretend like this is the first time I've ever poured resin. In this video, this is your how to get started and where to get started, okay? So you're going to see some various items out in front of me. I'm going to move some things here. We're going to start at the bottom and we're going to work our way up. So underneath here, this is a silicone mat. These are typically very easy to clean off. You can pick the resin off. It protects the surface underneath. So if you're working on a desk or something like that, it protects the area that you are working on. I don't care how good you are at pouring resin, you are going to drip it. You're going to have some spills. Things happen. These silicone mats, they are pretty inexpensive, but if you're just getting started and you want to just see if you like resin, this is the video for you, because this is where I'm going to show you a few cheaper hacks, some of the things that you can do so that you are not spending a ton of money to get going. So on the silicone mat thing, a very cheap and inexpensive way to protect your surface is just some wax paper. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to rip off a little piece of this, and we're going to just set this down over the top of my silicone mat. You can put this directly on your desk or whatever flat surface that you are working on. You can put it directly on that. That way, if you have any drips, any spills, it just goes on the wax paper. And at the end of it, you can still pick off the little pieces if you save those. I do, and use them in other projects. Or you can just take this, carefully ball it up, and toss that away. The other thing that you want to make sure is that whatever surface you are working on, you want to make sure that your surface is level. I'm not sure if you can see that, but this desk is very level. Let's see if I can show you that a little bit better here. Whatever surface you are working on is 100% level. This little guy, I think, cost me like $1 at my local hardware store. Most people have a little level sitting around somewhere and that you can use. If you don't, like I said, you can purchase these tiny ones, super easy. Then we're going to go to the molds. So these are molds for necklaces, or I guess you could use the tiny ones for earrings. I don't use these very often. Now you're going to start with these clean molds, and you want to start with something small. And this is just so that you can see how resin reacts and what it does, because mixing the resin itself is one reaction. Adding a mica powder, which is what I have out here today, is a separate reaction. Or adding any type of alcohol ink, something like this. This is the Let's Resin alcohol ink. This will give your resin a completely different consistency and reaction. So everything that you add into it, whether it is mica powder, alcohol ink, glitters, they all react different. And on top of that, each brand reacts differently. So if you are using a glitter from a craft store that these come like in a kit. I think you get a whole bunch of different colors and they're inexpensive. But this is from like a local craft store or grocery store, things like that. This is one type of glitter. This is a heavier glitter. So when you put this in resin, it tends to all sink to the bottom of your mold, okay? If you use a more fine glitter, like this one, now I know my bottle looks horrible, but that's because I use this one all the time. This is a Renfio holographic glitter. Now, this is a thinner, lightweight glitter that does not tend to sink down in the resin as easily. Okay, so I'm going to set that one over there too. These are all different options. Now, when you are first doing a first pour, I recommend you do a couple with no color in it whatsoever, just to see what it's like to mix the resin and pour the resin. Then you can take a little bit of your resin and add a color to it. That's where you're going to start. You're going to start at the basics, okay? Now these are popsicle sticks. Now I also see a lot of people saying don't use wood, don't use popsicle sticks. It adds air to your resin when you mix it. That may be. I don't typically have an issue with it with the brand of resin that I use. These are disposable. If you use a silicone mixing stick, which I don't have one readily available to show you, but if you use a silicone mixing stick, once the resin dries, you can pick it off and reuse the stick. Now I do reuse these. What I do is after I mix my resin, I wipe it down with a piece of paper towel and I set it off to the side to dry, and then I can reuse these. So yes, they are disposable, but I use them over and over and over until they can no longer be used anymore. I also have different sizes. So you can see I have all different sizes of these popsicle sticks. A bag of these that I buy off of Amazon will last me like a year. So it is up to you whether you want to use a silicone stick or wooden one, but it really all just depends on what you are most comfortable with. I am most comfortable using wood ones, so that's what I use. As far as measuring goes, when you're first starting out, a lot of the kits that you can get online for resin come with like a cup like this. This is a silicone mixing cup, and this has the graduated lines on it so that you can see how much you are using. Now that is really nice for when you're starting out. But do be aware that these are all printed on there using a machine. And they will even tell you these are not 100% accurate. They're close, but they're not 100%. So if you are going for complete accuracy, your best bet is to get something like this. This is just a little kitchen scale that you can weigh out your resin by grams, milliliters, ounces, or pounds, or fluid ounces. Okay. So you can use something like this as if you keep going. But for the purposes of this beginning video, we're going to use this little cup that came with something I bought a long time ago. The Unicorn Art Resin does not come with it. So, but these are pretty inexpensive if you want to buy one. Now, the next thing that you need are gloves. Some items come with these type of gloves. Let me get these out. These are very thin and kind of big and bulky. A lot of people like these because they can slide them on and off very easily to reuse them if they want to. Now for myself, I prefer using a glove like these. These are nitrile gloves. The black nitrile gloves, you can decide what size you want. I like my gloves tight on my hands because I don't really like to feel the gloves. I don't like when there's too much room. I like to be able to use them just like they are my actual hand and not have my gloves get in the way. But this is what these are for. Now, I prefer the black nitrile gloves. I've seen them in other colors. I've also seen just the regular, latex gloves. The reason I choose the black nitrile gloves is because I also, there we go, I also do work with UV resin, which I can get into in a different video. But to protect my skin from UV, I like to use the black ones because the regular gloves like these or just regular latex gloves, you can see through them. And when I've got my hands under UV light, I want to protect my hands from that UV light. That is why I choose to use the black nitrile gloves, because I don't want any of the UV light coming through on my hands when I am working with the UV light. Instead of having to have different types of gloves around, I just use the black nitrile just to protect myself for my safety. Resin itself is toxic enough. I don't need to be adding onto it by also putting my hands under UV light constantly. Speaking of the toxicity of resin, it is always a good idea to have a very well ventilated area. I have a very good ventilation, but I also have an air purifier going right in this room. And it's also a good idea to have something like this. These are the 3M respirators. I know a lot of people get the really, really good face respirators, and I do suggest it if you are going to be continuing on with resin. But because this is just a beginner video, something like this will help keep any toxic fumes from entering your lungs, okay? So something like this, if you're going to do a beginner, just starting out, something like this is really good. There are a lot of people that develop allergies over time to resin. So, and onto the resin, speaking of resin here, this is the brand of resin that I use all the time. Unicorn Art Resin. This one is the hardener. So this would be part B. And this one is the epoxy resin, part A. You mix these two 50-50. The reason I like this resin, I've used it for probably close to 3 years now, is because it has low VOCs. It dries very nicely within 48 hours. It is a certified non-toxic, low odor. It does say to use it in ventilated areas. Wear gloves, cover your work surface. The work time on it, on the bottle says 30 minutes. I can get about 40 minutes out of it, but it's really good. It's got a very high gloss to it. It's self-leveling and anti-yellowing. So I buy it, let me see if I can, by the gallons. This is a gallon of the hardener, and there is all of the user information. If you guys would like to pause that to read it, you are more than welcome to. But this is my go-to resin. I tried a lot of different brands when I first started out until I found one that I really liked. When you're trying resins, don't buy the huge gallons. Get these nice little 8-ounce bottles so you can try it out and see if you like it. There were brands that I tried that irritated my eyes, that smelled really bad, had a lot of odor to them as they were hardening and over time. They didn't have, some gave off way too many bubbles. So it's your job to not just take my word for gospel that this is the right brand for you. It's your job, if you are going to continue with resin, to try a few brands to see what one works the best for you personally. Everybody's going to give you their opinion on what the best one is. I'm going to tell you this is the best one for me. Might not be the best one for you. Okay. So let's get into this a little bit. Enough of me running my mouth and talking. These nice little molds, I'm making sure that they are clean and that there's nothing in them that's going to get in my way. So I'm going to start with my little graduated cup here, and I'm just going to do like up to the 20 ounces here, I think. So we're going to 20 ounces of the hardener. And I'm going to pour 20 ounces of the resin. Now, this is going to be way more than what I need for, I keep saying ounces, don't I? I'm so sorry. 20 milliliters of the hardener and 20 milliliters of the resin. And I think I'm going to use a smaller wooden stick for this because it's going to, the big one I just think is too much. But yes, this is more than I need for this little project that we're doing, but I've got other uses for it. I never waste resin. So I'm going to mix this up for 3 minutes. One of the things that we're going to do when we are mixing this is you are going to scrape the sides and the bottom really, really good. Just keep scraping as you are stirring this up. And this is you're going to stir this for 3 to 5 minutes, making sure that everything is mixed together. So I'm not sure if you can see it right now, but it is a little bit cloudy and you can kind of see strings in there where it's not mixed together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix this up for about 3 minutes and then we'll come back when it's done. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me mix resin for 3 minutes. I have mixed this up now for a good 3 to 5 minutes. I don't typically time it. I'll just look at my watch and be like, oh, okay. And it's 4:35 or, whatever it is. And then just mix it. And I mix it until I can't see any more of those strings and it doesn't look cloudy anymore. So right now it is all mixed. And if you look closely, you can see there are a lot of micro bubbles in there right now. This resin, those micro bubbles will rise on their own and pop. Especially right now, it is very warm in Michigan right now. That's where I'm at. And they'll rise on their own. Now, when it is cold outside, I have a little machine that I put it in, but that's for a different video. I've actually made a video on that already on what I use. So I'm going to take some of my little cups here and I'm going to split this out, not because I'm worried about it flash curing. A flash cure happens when resin sits for too long before you do anything with it. Now, that's why that work time of 30 minutes comes in handy. Like I said, this one I usually get 30 to 40 minutes, depending on what I put in it. When you add mica powder, that work time shortens. When you add alcohol ink, the time shortens a little bit, okay? So the more you add to this, the shorter work time you have. When it's just clear and it's just sitting here, it's fine. You got tons of time. But I'm going to split this out a little bit because I want to show you the differences between mica powders, glitters, and all that good stuff, okay? I'm going to split that out. I've got it split into 3 right now. I'm going to use this really pretty mica powder by Rolio, one of my favorite brands. Again, I will link all of this down in the comments so that you can see, what I use and how I use it. So I'm just going to put a little scoop. I think you guys can see it. I think my hand's out of the way. In there. That's all you need. You don't need a lot of this. These little pots last a long time. And Rolio brand is actually very cost effective also. So with a mica powder or any of the colorants, you want to make sure that you get it good and mixed in. I'll move my light a little bit so that you can see this better. I think that's a little bit better. I'm kind of working around my camera today because I really wanted to give you guys an up close view of what I'm doing. So again, I'm going to scrape the sides and the bottom and get that really mixed in. You don't want any chunks, anything that didn't get mixed in, because those will show when you don't have it mixed in. All right, so that's a really pretty color. And I'm going to let that sit for just a couple minutes here so that any bubbles that I just mixed in can start rising back up to the top. Now I'm going to use this forest green alcohol ink by Let's Resin, and I'm going to mix that into this one. I'm just going to put like 2-3 drops in there. And I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to mix this in really good. And I know this one is really hard to see because it is that forest green. And I'm mixing it in a black pot. That doesn't help you to be able to see what I'm doing too much. But same thing, you're just going to mix it all together. You're going to scrape the sides to make sure that you get it all mixed in, so that when you lift it up like that, it's all mixed together. Okay. I'm going to set that aside real quick. Now, you can see like right there, I had a little dry spot, so I'm just going to mix that a little bit better. Okay. Now I think I'm going to switch these. We can go with this one so we can have a little bit bigger ones. And I'm just going to pour this right into here. And when you do this, you want to make sure that it goes all the way around that little thing in the middle. That's where a keychain or whatever, bail for a necklace, anything like that would go through. I'm not going to be using these for that. This is just for demonstration purposes. And then I'm going to fill the mold all the way up to the top. All right. Trying to not go over, but you see, like I just dripped right there. So that drip, after it dries, I can just pick that off. But that's what I mean. No matter how long you do this stuff for, you have that happen. So that one is the mica powder. Now you can see that one is going to be opaque. You will not be able to see through it. This one is the alcohol ink. I'll pour that right next to it so that you can kind of see. And you want to make sure that it goes all the way around and then all the way up to the top. If you go over, it's not a huge deal. That can be fixed. And then this one, even though in the mold it looks like you won't be able to see through it, in person you will be able to. And I'll show you that when we take it out of the mold tomorrow. These have to sit for 24 hours. And this is what I mean by seeing how these react and how they work with each other. Now, you can also, you have a little left over and you're feeling brave, you can take them both and pour them both at the same time. So you get both in one mold, like that. And that gives it a whole different effect. So in each one of these, you can see there's a complete different effect going on, okay? Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split out just a little bit more of this, and you can see it's still very liquid. And we're going to play with these glitters so that I can show you a little bit of how different these glitters react. So I'm going to use this silver glitter, if I can get it open, without getting glitter everywhere. I love glitter, but I always get it everywhere. So I'm going to shake some of that in there. And I'm going to mix that in. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the camera there. Slow down. All right. This is the chunkier glitter that you buy for just regular old crafts and stuff. I'm going to mix that in. A way to get this to not sink is to wait until your resin thickens up a little bit, but then you are chancing having it flash cure. So I'm going to pour that right into there. I'm going to fill that one up. And then the last one I'm going to do is the fine glitter. This is by Resin, my favorite glitters. Add about the same amount into it. Again, I have a love-hate relationship with glitters just because it gets everywhere, but it's so pretty. And you can already tell the difference in how the glitter reacts with the resin here. So I'm going to stir that in real good. Oops, pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep my hands out of the way of the camera, and I'm making messes, which is normal for me anyway. But you can see the differences where the thinner glitter covers more, whereas the thicker the thicker glitter kind of spreads out. And when we take it out of this mold, you will also see that it sunk some, I think. We'll find out together. So this is what they all kind of look like. Now, as they are settling, I can already see that there's like the dips, and that is very normal way for resin to go to settle. It is going to dip down. It's just the way that it does it. When you use mica powder pulls to the center, so you'll see a more concentrated amount in the center, whereas alcohol ink stays spread out. Now, I can see, I don't know if you can see, but I can see some little micro bubbles in here. There are a couple different ways to get rid of bubbles. In something like this, I would tend to use a flame, a long neck lighter like this, and I'm just going to quickly go over the top and get rid of any bubbles. In my larger projects, you can tell my lighter is dying. In my larger projects, I would use a spray bottle that has 99% alcohol in it, and that tends to get rid of them too. With a flame like this, you have to move quickly and be very careful, because if you leave the flame on there for too long, you're going to burn your mold, and you don't want that either. So these are all ready to go, and I will come back to this tomorrow. I'm going to find something to do with the rest of this resin, because I don't waste any, and I want to make sure that I use it in something. So I'm going to find a little mold and that in there, and I'll be back tomorrow. All right, guys, we are back. It has been actually a little bit more than 24 hours. Everything is good and dry. But before I get these out of the mold, something that I forgot to tell you about was what to clean your hands with. If for some reason you get resin on your hands or any place on your body, you've got to get it cleaned off. Unfortunately, if you leave it on there to dry and pick off later, it can have a reaction with your skin. And over time, that can also cause an allergy to happen, which you do not want to have happen. All of us, you know, you're cleaning up stuff, you're moving stuff around. If you don't have your gloves on or something, you accidentally will touch your, touch something that has wet resin on it with a hand, an arm, something like that. And I've even gotten it in my hair, which was lots of fun. But anyway, what I use to clean off my resin from my hands is something like this. This is Fast Orange. It is a hand cleaner that has a grit in it. I take a little bit of this, rub it into my hands really good all over, or whatever the affected area is, and then rinse that off with warm water, and it comes right off. Some people will say to use alcohol to get it off of your skin, which yes, it does. But alcohol will react with the resin, and it actually puts some of the toxins into your skin, not to mention the toxins from the alcohol. So I would suggest not using alcohol to get resin off of your person. Try something like the Fast Orange or something else. This big jug of Fast Orange, I don't know if you can see how large this thing is. It has a pump on the top of it, which I don't even think is in frame. This was like $10 at Home Depot. So, and that'll last me a long, long time. So I would suggest, if you're going to continue to do resin, get something like that for those emergency situations. For me, even when I take my gloves off after I do resin, I still wash my hands with that, even if I don't have any resin on me, just to make sure that even if there was just a little bit of resin on me, it gets it off. Okay, so that's that. So let's get into this. So here are all of the different ones that we made a couple days ago, actually. And this is the leftover resin that I had from pouring these, because like I said, I don't waste any resin. There are even a couple drips on here, which I was going to show you. Those just pop right off like that. And then I keep a little cup like this of all of my drips and things, and I just will put that in there. And these actually are a really good filler for little items later on down the line. So I'll just keep a little cup of all of those little drips. They just come right off and are super easy. And this is on the wax paper too, so they come right off. You just stick them in there, and I can use that at a later date. Okay, let's get into these. This one here, this is the one that I used the chunky glitter on. And pop that out. Now, I'll try to bring it up to the camera so you can see it a little bit better. You can see on this side, that's the back side, and then when you flip it to this side, there's a lot more glitter. This one, the chunkier glitter, it will sink, so you get more glitter on one side than you do the other. Oh, sorry. But still pretty. This one is the very fine holographic glitter. It's got such a pretty shine to it. And then you can tell on the back side, it's got that same shine. This one, when you look from the side view, you can see the glitter is all the way through it. Whereas this one, this one that I can't hang on to, the glitter is more sunk towards the bottom. And it's really hard to show it on video, but That just shows a little bit more of the chunky versus the very fine. And I used about the same amount of glitter for both of them. Okay. This one here was the mica powder that we used. You can see it's got a very nice shimmer to it, and it's all the way through, but you cannot see through it either. Whoa. This one here, this was the alcohol ink one. You can see through that one. So that is the difference between alcohol ink and mica powders, depending on the look that you're going for. This one is the one that we did both in. So you can see it is half mica powder, half alcohol ink. It's got kind of a cool look to it. So let me show you what I did with the extra. When I have extra resin from a project, I always keep some type of small mold on my desk. I love this balloon dog one. He's super cute. Not the easiest to get out of a mold though. All right, so this is what I did with all of the extra resin. And you can see, even in him, see how that chunky glitter, that all went down to the bottom of the mold. So his tail, ears, and back all have that chunky gold in it, where the holographic gold, I didn't have a ton of it, but it is more mixed in with the others. And this was just me pouring all of them in to that one mold and seeing what I came up with. Sometimes the ones that I use just extra mold or resin for actually come out the cutest. So here is the cute little resin balloon dog that I made, and I will take him and probably put a magnet on his side. Will become a refrigerator magnet probably. So there you have it, guys. This was how to start resin, or where to start on resin, and how to start without spending a fortune just to see if it is a craft that you like. Resin is not for everybody. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of work, but the payoff is great. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me anything in the comments. I know I covered a lot, but there is still so much more to cover. I can do a second video if you'd like that is more intermediate than beginner for anybody that has already started but has some questions. So if you'd like that video, please let me know in the comments. And if you liked the video, give me that thumbs up. If you didn't, that's okay too. Give me that thumbs down, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.